Presentation of dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.
Coming up, the number of people of Mexican descent in Idaho has grown so much that the government of Mexico now has a consulate here. We'll talk about the services it provides, as well as the relationship between Idaho and Mexico, with the Mexican consul to our state, Guillermo Ordorica. That's Dialogue next. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Dialogue. I'm Marcia Franklin. The Census Bureau estimates that 170,000 people in Idaho are Hispanic. That's about 11% of the state's population. And the overwhelming majority of Hispanics in Idaho, more than 149,000 people, are of Mexican descent. Those numbers are high enough that in 2009, the Mexican government decided to open a consulate in Idaho, kind of a mini embassy. The closest Mexican consulate before then was in Salt Lake City, which was too far for many to travel. At the consulate, Mexican citizens in most of Idaho, western Montana, and eastern Oregon can apply for various Mexican legal documents such as ID cards, passports, and birth certificates. The 15 consulate employees can also assist them in health emergencies or with law enforcement situations. The office is also involved with cultural, tourism, trade, and immigration issues. Now, here to tell us more about the role and responsibilities of the Mexican consulate in Idaho is its consul, Guillermo Ordorica. Consul Ordorica, the second person to serve in his position, arrived in Boise in June 2013 from the Consulate General in El Paso, Texas, where he was deputy consul. Mr. Ordorica previously served in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Mexico, where he was Deputy Director General of the United States Department and the Deputy Director General for Africa and the Middle East. A world traveler, he's also worked in Paris and in Rome, and when he's not crossing oceans, his preferred mode of travel is by bicycle, which we'll learn more about in just a few moments. Welcome to Boise.
Thank you very much, Marcia, and thank you for this opportunity to bring you with some comments about the very important work that we do here in Boise, in which I can really tell you I feel like in home.
Do you already? Well, after being in Europe and even being in El Paso, this must be kind of a quiet place for you to live.
Well, it is not that much. Being a consul is always very, very something that you really work a lot. And I'm always full of noise, all kind of noises.
Well, we'll talk more about the responsibilities of the consulate in a moment, but a little bit about you. You're a bicyclist, as I mentioned, and this is a great place to bicycle.
Yeah.
You, in fact, were national champion in Mexico when you were 17 or 18 or so, yes?
18, 19 years old. Yes, that's a long time ago, 1976.
But you're still biking?
I'm still biking, yeah. I like it very much. It's my first sport. I was national champion in road and also in track. And I was a member to the Olympic Games in 1976 Montreal. Unfortunately, we didn't make it because at that time the Mexican Cycling Federation didn't have the money to send us. So this was a bad experience. But anyway,
well,
yes.
You went on in your studies, right?
Yeah, well,
as a result of not being able to go to the Olympics.
And then I decided to continue, of course, doing sports in a different level, and doing what I like very much, which is studying and preparing myself to become a very productive citizen from Mexico.
Well, and in fact, you did a fun thing earlier this year where you did a little bit of bicycle diplomacy in Boise. Talk about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, I had the idea. At the beginning, I was really concerned about having this kind of ideas, but then I thought, well, Guillermo, the idea is to bring the consulate to the people and to let the people of Boise know that you are here, not Guillermo, the consulate, and the kind of work you're doing. So I decided to dress myself with the Mexican Olympic, the suit of the Mexican team, and I asked the police department in bicycle to join me and have a tour around to know the city, to know the problems exactly coming from the police, the difficult spots, the nice spots of the city. And at the same time, I paid a visit to different authorities in the region.
Got to meet Kristen Armstrong,
I met Kristen
Olympian.
Armstrong, yeah, at St. Luke's Hospital.
Right.
She was very nice, and we exchanged ideas about the importance of fostering and promoting sports, in particular on the new generations, as a way of having a healthy life.
Right.
Yeah.
And you get to bike still in Idaho, which must be a little bit easier than Mexico City.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even though Mexico City has been doing enormous progress in bicycling in transport, of course here is a paradise for cyclists. I like it very much.
Another connection you have is you're of Basque descent through your father, right? Which is interesting because there's so many Basques here.
Yeah.
And that must be a great connection for you here in Idaho.
Yes, well, in Mexico we are all Mexicans. It's a different kind of society in Mexico, so the kind of society develops makes you immediately integrate into a national society. So we call Mexicans. We're all of us Mexicans. Doesn't matter where you're coming from. Yes, my origin is Basque, a long time ago, probably at the beginning or the middle of the 19th century. And yes, my last name is totally Basque, absolutely Basque, a very rare name in Spanish, or in Basque. So this has been like a business card, a presentation card for the community. And I like them, and I joined very much.
In fact, when our former Secretary of State died, Mr. Senarusa,
yeah.
The consul participated and made a Day of the Dead altar for him.
Yeah, we offered him an homage as a U.S. citizen, a very important U.S. citizen, U.S. Idahoan. We offered him with an altar at the consulate, and in that way we show the people the way in which Mexico celebrates, and we can say that, celebrates death.
By celebrating the life of somebody.
Exactly, by celebrating life and paying tribute to those who passed away in a very nice and very ancient way that combines both the Indian and Spanish traditions, and today is a Mexican one.
Another thing about you is you're an author. 11 books,
yeah,
including a novel.
Yes.
How do you find time for all of this?
Well, actually, I don't know. It's just a matter of discipline, I think, and of course, something that you like to do.
Your books you specialize in history, yes?
Yeah, well, it's history and international relations. Of course, I'm a career diplomat, so I like very much international politics, and my books, most of them, have to do with international politics and the moment in which the Berlin Wall collapsed and the emerging of the global world. Some of the books have to do with the Vatican and church-state relations.
Where you worked?
Yeah, I worked at the Mexican Embassy to the Holy See for some years when John Paul II was the Pope. And so, well, yes, I studied and I wrote a book about what I call the Godspell diplomacy. And yes, I have a novel too, and this is a novel about an idea of a guy, a castaway, person that has some kind of trouble.
Castaway.
Castaway in the 16th century, and he just wants to die, and he doesn't know how to do that. And in the end, this novel finishes with the guy saying, "Well, this is a homage for life."
So he's on the ocean, the open ocean, wanting to die, and the end of it is it's an homage to life. And
yes.
You have a book now that's being translated at Idaho State University, yes?
They're working on that, yes, Marcia. Yes, I just I published this year. In May, last May, the Universidad Autónoma de Ciudad Juárez, the bordering city in Chihuahua State with El Paso, Texas. There's a very nice university. And this university published my book, Hernán Cortés and Bartolomé de las Casas, for a reconciled Mexico, which is offering some ideas about how the people at the time in Europe, in Spain, even in Mexico, were thinking about what they found in America, in this case, the Mexican Indians. And, well, in the end, this book has to do with all the process that finished with the recognition of the human condition of the Indians and the first steps towards what was in the future to be or develop as human rights doctrine.
So as I understand it, this will be the first book that Idaho State University is translating into Spanish? Is that,
well, in this issue, yes, and they are working on that. Hopefully, the Spanish department in ISU is gonna finishing this book probably in the first semester of 2014.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, thanks for telling us a little bit about yourself. I'd say maybe a Renaissance man then. Sports, history, diplomacy. Here you are in Idaho, and talk a little bit about what the consulate does. As I mentioned in my introduction, it services mostly people of Mexican descent with papers that they might need to get around in Mexico and here, birth certificates, things like that.
Yes. Well, you said it well at the beginning. We have a growing population in the region. The consulate goes beyond Idaho. It also is a great part of Montana, parts of Nevada, parts of Oregon. And we have almost 220,000 Mexican or Mexican origin people living in the area. Of course, we're just the consulate for Mexicans. We don't take care for any other nationals because we have to do with the Mexican population. We offer our nationals with mainly three services, basic services: documentation, protection services, and of course promotion of Mexico. In documentation, that was your concern. Documentation has to do with offering our nationals with documents that in which they can prove that they're Mexican nationals, such as passports, birth certificates, some cases death certificates. We marry people. We offer them with notary public documents. So it's like
the Mexican ID card.
Mexican ID, what we call matrícula consular, which is very important, and it has been accepted thanks to Mayor Bitter. I talked to him, and he accepted very well. Now the matrícula consular is accepted for receiving some benefits.
But there was a concern years ago when the consulate opened that card would then be used to get services in the United States for things like health care and all that. That's not what it's
No,
for.
it's just an ID.
It's an ID.
It's just an ID. That's good. It's an ID for proving that you are precisely Mexican. An ID that has, of course, in its a lot of security elements, and that is really a very secure document.
And you visit people in prison and hospital, yes?
Well, yeah. On the other side, we offer also protection services. The idea of protecting nationals here has nothing to do to avoid the rule of law. Of course, we respect very much the United States laws, and this is the main thing. But we take care of Mexican nationals that, unfortunately, for whatever reason, or are they detained, or probably abused by people that want to abuse them for whatever reason, migration, but also for Mexican who are in hospitals, ill, sick, or people who has been for any reason detained and they are staying or paying in a detention center. So yes, we visit a lot of. At a year, we visit 200 times. We make 200 visits a year to detention centers just to see how are the nationals doing, if they are doing well, if they have any special need, and to let them to know if they are really following due process. And yes, that's what we do.
You're a diplomat, so as you said, you're responsible for following the laws of the country that you're in.
Uh-huh.
Nevertheless, I'm sure you get asked all the time about immigration issues, all the time, because it's the top of the docket question.
Yes.
So how do you see this? We're in kind of a limbo now, it seems like, with immigration issues, immigration reform, if you want to call it that. How do you see that affecting your clients, the people that you serve? What are some of the situations we find ourselves in?
Yes, thank you. First of all, let me make a very clear statement about this process. Mexico, of course, follows closely this debate, national debate, but we have no opinion. We clearly recognize the right of the United States people and Congress to exercise its sovereignty and to decide whatever may be convenient for you. So, after that, let me say yes, of course, there's a lot of expectations for many people about having probably immigration reform, and how this will affect them, it will depend. So, first of all, what we do is to offer them with good information, to avoid them to be victims of people that may probably abuse them. So,
but you see families that are split apart, right? And other instances.
Yes, there's so many situations that, of course, emerge about migration. Migration can be unfortunately, something very painful in many ways. It hurts. There are many divided families. One father deported, the mother probably staying here. So
you don't ask somebody their status though when they come for services to you.
No.
You provide them services.
We provide this. Well, the only thing, if you want me to provide the service in documentation, of course, you have to prove me you're Mexican, and we have means and ways to do that. But yes, mainly we offer the people coming to our office. We offer them with legal counsel, migration counsel also, through ourselves or to people that work with the consulate, that know pretty well what's going on, to avoid any kind of abuse.
What would you like to see in terms of, would you like to see a resolution soon? Is this something that's important to you to get this issue resolved?
No, it has nothing to do with us. Of course, we have as I told you before, we follow this issue. We understand this is something that has to do with domestic politics inside the United States, so we have no opinion in that. We just follow it.
Because there's a lot of pieces to it.
Yeah,
And
well,
do you think we'll see any movement on it? I mean, you used to be a liaison to Congress in one of your jobs. Do you think we're going to see any movement on the issue? And would you like to see some movement on it?
well, what I can tell you, the only information that we have about that is the same that you may have through the newspapers, the media. Of course, what's going to happen, you never know. It's something that has to do with Congress politics and agreements in between legislators, and it's not something easy to achieve. Yes, of course, immigration reform could be very fruitful for both countries. We are friends, we're partners, we share border, we share values. Our migrants sometimes offer a lot of work in here, and so almost 3% of U.S. GDP comes from Mexican labor. So of course it has to do with something that's a reality. We cannot close your eyes and say this is not happening. It is happening. The presence of Mexicans is happening as a result of many situations, in particular a labor market in North America, an emerging and growing labor market in North America, yeah. But the result or no about the migration reform has nothing to do with Mexico, and as I told you, we are very respectful and we will continue like this because this is a capacity that is on the U.S. side. It's your sovereignty. We have nothing to do about that.
What are your goals for your tenure here in this region? What are your priorities?
Well, the first priority is to really consolidate and to strengthen the Mexican consulate in the region. That's what I'm going out on my bicycle. That's why I'm visiting so many communities, going in mobile consulates to many communities. We bring the consulate to communities that are probably far from Boise to offer them services during the weekends. So the idea is to consolidate the consulate as
consolidate the consulate
as a very important tool, as a very important office for our nationals to help them in whatever they may need. Again, without violating any U.S. law. This is not our commitment. Our commitment is just to help them as nationals in those services that we offer them. And well, after that, of course, when I say consolidating my consulate or the consulate of Mexico, it's not just offering services to the people. It's also offering the people from Idaho, Montana, Nevada, and Oregon with information about many good things that happen between both Idaho or my jurisdiction and Mexico. We're trading partners.
Quite a bit of trade, as a matter of fact. I believe $256 million between Idaho and Mexico in 2012, and that was up substantially from 2011.
Yeah, it's been growing almost in the last year, like 21.5%. In
mostly agricultural.
Yeah,
products.
Agriculture and some manufacturers. And dairy products and things like that. And you also have Idaho has a lot of economic interests in the region of Guadalajara, Jalisco State. Actually, the state of Idaho has a trade representative in Guadalajara permanently, and that's important to know because that it's really the importance between both regions, Mexico as a country and you as a region.
And cultural activities, I believe, are a priority for you too. Bringing in musicians.
The same as you are, yes, thank you, Marcia. The same as the United States is a superpower in politics, military, and has a lot of influence in the world. Mexico, and I'm proud of saying that, it's also superpowers in terms of culture. And we present ourselves to the world with this strength. We offer the world with a very times millenary culture. And yes, we bring culture as the main ambassador of Mexico. Because we believe that this is the best presentation card that we have to know us better. And yes, today, for example, we're going to be offering a very nice venue, bringing a flutist, Baroque classical flutist, who's really a virtuoso worldwide known. But we offer music, dance, movie, painting. All the time we're offering all kind of cultural activities as a way of presenting culture from Mexico in a way in which people from here can, of course, benefit from this kind of venues, and at the same time as a way for letting them know what we are.
And if people have questions about going to Mexico, where to go, you can provide that.
Yes.
I know there's been a lot of concern over the years about safety going down to Mexico.
Yes. Unfortunately, this is something that happened. We are on the right way, I think. This is not anymore a main concern for going to Mexico. My mother, my family, my brothers, they live in Mexico, and they live as well as in here. Things happen everywhere. I will not be concerned about that. But yes, if you need any kind of information, please knock the door of the consulate, and we will be offering you that information in case you need a visa. If you're a businessman, if you want to study there, whatever.
Start a business, maybe?
Start a business, yeah. We will offer you with all kind of information regarding those issues, yes.
So, what do you find the most difficult about your job? Is it that you're so stretched out, you're across so many different states here? Is that
yeah, well, there's so many challenges. The first one is because you have to be a diplomat and I need to have a good relation with local, state, and federal authorities in the region. I have to cover a huge geographical extension. Sometimes it's not easy. Just imagine to offer services in very far regions in Montana, close to North Dakota, for example, or going south, whatever. So sometimes bringing the services is not an easy task. So I have to be a diplomat. I have to be a voyager. I have to be a traveler.
You have to be a diplomat, and then you have to be a what?
A traveler. I'm always traveling around, looking for knocking the door in different communities all around my jurisdiction. And at the same time, I have to be, in many ways, a friendly hand that needs to get close to my communities and to really touch the problematic of families and people living in conditions that sometimes are very difficult. So it's not just about diplomacy and having a good drink. It has to do with a variety of situations in which we have to work.
Right, with law enforcement situations.
Law enforcement, prisons, detentions, very situations that, of course, sometimes could be very heartbreaking. Yes, that may be touchy. So this is the kind of work that we do as consuls. And let me tell you about that we are very, very proud because Mexico is the only country in the world that has, in this case, 50 consulates in the United States.
50?
50 in the whole of the United States. According to the number of Mexicans living in the United States, almost 33 million Mexicans living here, 10.3% of the population of the United States is Mexican origin. So that's why we have so many consulates, not just because we want to be here. It's just because there's a reason. And, Mexican consular work has been recognized as something very important by many nations.
Before you came to Idaho, did you know much about this region?
A little about this, yes. First of all, because of the potatoes. They're so famous everywhere. Yeah. And I like them very much. And also because I like to study history. So I read something about Custer in the past, General Custer, George Armstrong Custer.
Oh,
yeah.
In South Dakota.
In South Dakota.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just some kind of region.
Because of Montana, yeah.
And so I have some idea. And also because, not precisely Idaho, but going south to Nevada, that was the ancient Mexican border with the United States before 1848.
What kind of misimpressions do you think people in the United States might have of Mexico or Mexicans?
Misimpressions?
Misimpressions, yeah, that you'd like to correct.
First of all, there's a lot of histories about good and evil. I think that if you put in the balance both histories, of course, good is going to win for far more. But anyway, it has to do with lack of information about what's going on in the South. We are in Mexico, today the 11th economy in the world. We are hopeful in the next 10 to 15 years. We expect to be the 7th, according to Nobel Economic Award winner. Still, we will be probably being the 7th, 8th. So we're more powerful than many European powers. And we're almost 150 million Mexicans. So, I mean, on the South, there's no a very poor country or a developing country just like that. We are an emerging power. We are a country that has a very important role in international relations. We participate in the G20 group. We have been part of the United Nations Security Council several times as a non-permanent member. So Mexico has a very active role, and we have very nice cities, and you will be amazed at how many things we can offer you, not just about history. Food, restaurants, the biggest, the city that has the biggest number of museums in the Americas and probably in the world is Mexico, even compared with Paris.
Mexico City.
Mexico City. Just in Mexico City, we have 360 museums. So, and sometimes people don't know. So we offer the world many things, and we offer a city which is contemporary, metropolitan, modern, very nice, and you will eat very good. Of course, we face, as everybody else in the world, troubles, and that's normal in such a huge city, 22 million people.
Traffic,
Mexico City.
Pollution, yeah.
Yeah, not that much pollution.
No?
Pollution is not anymore a concern. It was 20 years ago, not anymore. So, and it's beautiful. I mean, Mexico, I think that Mexico City is still being, in terms of history, the core of the Americas in many ways.
And what kind of misimpressions do you think people might have about people of Mexican descent in the United States?
Well, first of all, there's a wrong idea because we say we all Mexicans have a cousin in the United States and you all Americans have a cousin in Mexico. I mean, we are so related, so for so many years because of history, whatever. So this has to do, again, with histories of evil, which are not true anymore.
Histories of evil?
Evil, yeah. Probably the main concern is for those who are here undocumented. We don't like to call them illegals because we don't like to criminalize migration, but we call them undocumented people. So undocumented people here, of course, fear from being identified by any authority, and that's probably the main reason why they hide, and they are afraid of being catched. They're working, and they're trying to make their best. Sometimes we have very good workers in here. So the only misimpression is that they fear to be deported, or they fear that they may be abused on their rights by any kind of authority, and that's because they are undocumented and they are just, but everywhere, everything else, I think it's okay. You may know that in Mexico, in the state of Guanajuato, in San Miguel de Allende, you have the biggest community of Americans living abroad, the United States. So it happens the same. If you go to San Miguel de Allende,
the migration is going both ways.
Both ways. It's not just you, and it's not just Mexicans coming here. It's also going there. Many retirees, many elder people like to retire in Mexico because they live phenomenal, great. In Baja California Peninsula, in Baja, it's beautiful. You have beautiful places to live, golf resorts, hospital, medical services, and cheaper than here with first world quality services.
Well, so there's a lot of ties between our two areas. And unfortunately, the time has gone so quickly. Can you imagine that? Thank you for coming in and talking with us about yourself and about the consulate here in Idaho. And for more information, of course, we'll be linking your website to ours.
Thank you. And let me just say one thing more before finishing, and that's that Mexico and the U.S. is like a marriage. We're married. With just one difference. If you're married with one person to the other, you have always the chance for divorce. In between Mexico and the United States, we're married forever. There's no chance for divorce. So the best thing to do is to keep on cooperating and be friends as we do now.
Thank you.
Thank
you
welcome.
Very much. You've been listening to Consul Guillermo Ordorica. Hopefully I got that right.
That is perfect.
Perfectly diplomatic. Thank you very much. He is the consul from Mexico to Idaho in this region. I'm Marcia Franklin. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Dialogue.
Presentation of Dialogue on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore family's legacy of building the great state of Idaho.